being on a plane, you're sitting next to a stranger. They lean over and say, "Hey, I'm just starting my journey. What advice do you have for me?"
First of all, let me appreciate you for asking a question that I haven't been asked after 2,500 or so interviews over the years.
The very, very first thing I would say is you have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle. And so the ego is your ego.
The fear of trauma, again, in the future is called anxiety because you didn't know how to deal with it in the past.
In 2008, Grant and I had been married for 4 years. I was pregnant with my first child. The economy was collapsing, and we were on the verge of losing everything financially.
Hello, everybody. Once again, it's Corey Poirier with the Enlightened Passenger Show. This episode here, we interviewed Lachi, like Versace. You'll notice in the interview, that's how she helps people remember exactly how to say her name. What a powerful story. I think you'll be blown away by the road that she's traveled. And as always, the book that inspired the show is called The Enlightened Passenger. I'm super excited to have some news very soon on the feature film that's being made for the book. In the interim, though, if you want to check out the book, grab your copy today. It's a fictional parable about two strangers on a plane where the older stranger reveals 10 powerful insights to the younger stranger. These are insights I learned interviewing some of the world's top achievers. And again, as always, you can get your copy of the book at thisisthebook.com today. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. This is another episode of our show. I kind of talk to the audience because we're like a video, but also you could be listening in the podcasting world. So Lachi, I'm so excited to have you here with me today. And where I want to start and where I usually start, which I know is a bit different, but I always like the guests to tell us a little bit about themselves versus me reading from a bio or something where I'm going to mispronounce words and what have you.
Yeah.
So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself before we dive right in?
No, you're not actually mispronouncing words. You're just Canadian. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. That's true.
I'm messing with
That's
you.
true. Or maybe we're getting them right.
Yeah, exactly
nobody
right.
else knows.
So my name is Lachi, like Versace. I am a recording artist, a songwriter, a Grammys New York chapter board governor. I've done a lot of touring. I've gotten to work with some household names. I focus generally on dance and electronic, vocals and songwriting. I've gotten the opportunity to work with, I don't like to name drop because we're in LA, so let's move on. I am also a disability inclusion advocate, I myself being legally blind. I run an organization called Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities, RAMP, which works with a lot of the major firms, labels, and companies to bring disability inclusive tools and solutions to the music and live entertainment industry, like the Recording Academy, Grammys, Live Nation, et cetera, et cetera. What else do I? And I do so much more. I'm a host. I've been on PBS doing some hosting. I do a lot of ads for accessible tech. I've worked with like Meta and Microsoft and Google. Gosh, if I didn't say Google, they would have been very upset. And, but at the end of the day, where my real heart is just getting in the studio, being a vocal producer, getting behind the keys, playing the piano, and then hanging out with people like you.
Amazing. Wow. So it doesn't sound like you're busy at all.
No,
like
I don't do
bored,
it. I'm
probably.
sleeping all day.
Yeah, it sounds like you have time to be bored.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I guess I'm fascinated by the how. So how a person got into what they do. I mean, I know my journey to here has been it hasn't been straight. It hasn't been a straight line. I see that there's a meme I've seen it before. It says like normal life and it shows a straight line. Entrepreneur's life and it's like up, down, up, down. And so I'm always fascinated by the why, how a person got there and why they went that direction. So how did you get down this path to do all those things and get into this industry that's so unique?
Well, I'm an artist and a CEO. So there was definitely not a straight path there. So my parents came to this country. They both Nigerian. I'm the 6th of 7 kids, so Catholic. And, honestly, being a young woman with a disability, they really wanted to make sure I had something to fall back on. So I lived up and down the Eastern Seaboard, went to school, got a job, and I realized when I was out in the workforce that I was kind of living a double life. I really wanted to do music, but I'm working this desk job. I was actually working for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And, but I was also very much So I had much more better vision than I do now. So I hid my visual issues as much as I could from the world. And I ended up getting signed to a label, and they started, pitching and marketing me in a way I didn't like. They were like, okay, blind musician this, blind artist that, right? And I was like, it should be more about the music,
Mhm.
which people find, because right now, if anyone who knows me knows that I openly celebrate like my blindness and my disabilities and all of that kind of stuff. But back then I wasn't doing it from a place of power. So I end up leaving the music industry and then I come back and I realize like, look, studios are inaccessible for a lot of folks, and honestly, whether you're blind or whether you just like have anxiety or whether you this or that, just the different things, it's really difficult to break into the music industry. So I wanted to really start to focus on how can people come towards music and entertainment and art from a place of power. And that was really when my journey began. I started working with different studios to be more accessible. I started working with the Recording Academy to be more inclusive. And I just started rising through the ranks with this like sort of powerhouse message, this kind of go-getter, fiery message that everyone was latching onto. And I didn't even realize it. Then eventually COVID hit, and I was the only one with a super duper accessible home studio. So everybody was coming to my studio, and everything just kind of took off from there. I became part of the Grammys board and really started pitching inclusion there. I started going on these different podcasts and setting up these panels and talking about neurodivergence and mental health issues and disability. And everybody was like, who is this chick? And that's kind of where I am now. Now I'm putting out, like I said, working with these brands, putting out this music that really celebrates this kind of from a badass boss energy, these kind of topics, while also being the CEO of this organization that partners up with all of the bigwigs. And that's pretty much where it is now. And people go like, okay, well, what is your goal? Like, who are you doing all of this for? They'll say, hey, Lachi, you're being so noble. But I'm like, you know what? It's not noble. I'm actually doing this for the 8-year-old me who wish she saw it. So in that sense, it's a little selfish because I'm like trying to serve my past self. But at the end of the day, I'm down to bring everybody with me.
Wow. So I'm going to jump ahead to a question I usually ask a little near the end, but it's called the time machine question. You made me want to ask this question because you said your younger self.
Sure.
And so the time machine question is pretty easy. It's if you could go back in a time machine and talk to your younger self and give her some life advice based on what you've learned in the year since, what do you think you might tell that younger self?
First of all, I'd tell her how to build a time machine because that's dope and very, very like lucrative. But I think I would tell her, people are going to take your shoulders and make you go left. People are going to take your shoulders and make you go right. But until you take your own shoulders and go in the direction you want to go, that's when your life is going to begin. I think I would tell her, don't let anybody take your power. Your power is that little freckle inside of you that's different, that society wants you to hide or be ashamed of. Wear that on your t-shirt and come from a place of power, because that's going to be the strongest, most powerful thing you ever do. And no one will be able to ever take that away from you.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. So a follow-up question to that is more related to a stranger. So my second question I asked that's similar is if you were on a plane sitting next to a stranger, they leaned over and said, hey, I need some life advice. What do you got? Would you tell that stranger the same thing? Or do you think because it's a stranger, not a younger version of yourself, would you tell them something different?
Wow. If we were just sitting on a plane together and they just lean over and say, give me life advice right now.
Yes. That's the picture I'm sort of painting.
I love it. I love it. Well, I would first be like, are you going to drink that? Because obviously they still have their tequila sitting on their, anyway, whatever. So I think the advice that I would give them would still be very similar. It would be after a couple of questions that I'd ask them just to kind of gauge where they're at. I'd say, you know what? Listen, at the end of the day, is this truly coming from a place of power? Because at the end of the day, your decisions, you being the boss of the business that is you, is what is most important. I think the most important thing, a lot of folks think we got to, do this 9 to 5. We got to find the success. But the truth of the matter is that you define what success is. You define what happiness is. You define where you want to go. So look deep inside yourself. And I got it. I would say, what did the 8-year-old you want? Go and fight for that.
Hmm.
And that is your purpose.
Wow. Another mic drop moment.
Yeah.
So
Here,
absolutely.
I'll pick the mic back up. Where did it go?
I love it. One of the things you said I thought was kind of fascinating because I never thought of it that way before was when you said people were saying, let's sort of market her or brand her as sort of the blind artist.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it until you said that about the fact that, like, when you look back at the artists over the years that may have been blind, like Ray Charles
Sure.
or a Jeff Healey
Yeah,
or
sure.
Steve Wonder, they weren't really promoted as a blind artist. They were amazing artists
Mhm.
that just happened to be blind. And maybe the audience, some of the audience might have commented on that and say, "Oh, he's the guy that is blind or what have you." But I find it fascinating that they really went out and just said, "We're great artists." Period.
Right.
So I find it fascinating when you said that because I never thought about it that way. Is they I don't know if they chose to or they just went out and made such great music that nobody said it. I don't know what the answer.
I
is.
mean, I think that part of it is that, once you really start, it just depends on where you want to come from because, in those times of, you're talking the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, there wasn't like a renaissance of be you, be true, be out, be whatever you want to be, right? There was a lot more stigma back then than there even is today about blindness or disability. So I would think that they would not want to have anything to do with it and would really want, similar to me, like the way I had felt at that time, would be like, no, you're just going to market me the way I want to be marketed. And then as they climb through the ranks, they have the ability to just fire whoever's marketing them the way they don't want to be marketed. And yes, people did talk about and discuss their blindness. It was definitely a thing. And some folks, like we've got the Blind Boys of Alabama. And it all started historically from a young gentleman named Blind Tom, who was this huge piano player in the 19th century. And again, for me, I think, when you talk about navigating the music industry, one of the big things that the music industry does is exploit, right? Whether for good or ill, right? So they want to figure out what can I exploit really quickly to make as much money off of this product as possible. And you have to, I can't imagine that their blindness wasn't exploited in one way or another. But then once they blew up, it was no longer necessary to. And for me, I had thought, I don't care if it's necessary to get me blown up or not. I want to cut it out right now. But then again, me today, several years later, I don't care about someone talking about my blindness or someone talking about my disability because they can say whatever they want. I already know I'm going to put on my cocky glasses for a second, but it's like, I already know I'm really good. I'm already very comfortable in my skin, who I am, where I stand and where I walk in the world. And so no matter what people want to put on me, I am proud. And I'm not afraid to discuss my blindness or my disability or any of my other neurodivergences. If I'm going through anxiety, if I'm going through a depressive situation, I will just straight up say it to my followers and my fans and have open conversations because we don't have enough of them.
So I'm curious now, just one other quick question around on the blindness side, because
Sure.
it's something I forget where I heard it recently, but I was reading it or I saw it somewhere, but it was an article or a news bit about the advancements right now. And they were talking about this one thing they've been testing on um, animals and stuff, but they literally were talking about how they figure they found something that's going to be able to take somebody that is blind and literally give them sight.
Sure.
And with AI and all the advancing things we're seeing, it seems like that may be a possibility now.
Yeah.
You would know more than I do on that.
Yeah.
Have you heard about stuff like this, that they're getting that close now?
Yeah, there's a lot of different research. There's CRISPR. There's, people really leaning into, and there's like foundations called, Foundation Fighting Blindness and things like that are actually working on stuff like that. But I'm actually also of the mindset of making the tools available as well for someone who was born blind or goes blind to be able to navigate. Right? You know how I got here? I got here from a driverless car.
Wow.
So I actually used that driverless Uber Waymo, I think is what it's called. And so it's a little weird, right? You get in the car, there's not a person there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey there, empty seat. Or, NAM. I was just at NAM, which is the National Association of Music Merchants. And everything was just super accessible. It was very easy for me to navigate. In fact, ran into Stevie Wonder while
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
there.
Wow.
Speaking of which,
That's so
um,
amazing.
but the point that I'm making is that, I personally am not of the Cure mindset. They had actually given me contacts. So I have I'm able to see just like colors and blur, right? And they gave me these contacts that if I stick them in my eye, which takes like half an hour and like pains it in, I could see just a little bit better. And I tried to use them and it was like a hassle. So seeing was a hassle. So I was like, you know what? I don't feel like doing it. But the point that I'm making is that if I have my screen readers, my Zoom text, my cane, we've got driverless cars, I don't really need to see at the end of the day. Like I am accommodated. I'm not impaired, right?
Right.
When I have all of the things, I'm still blind, but I'm not impaired. And I try to let people know that, especially blind folks, or it doesn't matter what the disability is, whether you're deaf, a wheelchair user, or even if you have, whatever it is, don't sit around and wait for a cure. It'd be nice if it comes like a menu, right? It's like, oh, cure or no cure. Options are great, but go live your life. And I would love for the world to just be accessible for people to live their life the way they show up. And then they can have the option if they want to change themselves.
I love that. And I have to say, the driverless car, I haven't been in one yet.
It's freaky. It is freaky.
Okay,
It is freaky.
I'm interested in kind of interested and also concerned about the concept at the same time.
Sure.
I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And we know that's what's happening. It's not just coming, that's what's here.
It's here. Yeah.
And so from your perspective, just out of curiosity, I mean, because there's one side of it though, that now you're by yourself. So maybe it's not like you have to, the stranger side, you're not meeting a stranger that you might feel uncomfortable with.
That's
and
true.
You might be able to read, that's not a great energy. Well, now it's not even in the car anymore
That's
because
not
there's no
there.
person there.
Exactly.
So there's probably some aspects. I'm sure there's a lot of people that will prefer it. The same way, years ago, we used to use a phone to call somebody.
Yeah.
And now I know a lot of people, some days myself included, where I'd rather still text.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, I'm going to call you right now. I'll just text you.
Just text.
Yeah. And so I think there's a point where some people are going to be like, I'd just rather just
Yeah.
walk in the car, not
Mhm.
even look up at anybody and just
Yeah.
go.
Yes. It's going to have its ups. It's going to have its downs. The entire time I was afraid, I was like, is it going to crash? Is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? It was a very smooth ride. One of the big downsides is that it does follow the speed limit. I don't know if I was like, go just a little over. Come on, make the light. But at the same time,
It's probably safer that it doesn't.
Whatever. But it was like a very smooth ride. Now again, I'm from New York. And so everybody's just running around and really fast. So I'm always getting like motion sickness. And so here I didn't get any motion sickness. It was nice not to have to talk to anyone. Although I don't mind another human, but it was really weird that it did ask me to rate the driver. Not really sure what that was about, but it's like he was quiet.
Zero.
Yeah, well,
Zero.
like very,
It didn't exist.
negative conversation, no conversation.
Yeah. He could use a bit more work on the conversation.
Exactly. But I got to say, I love that getting into the car, I felt I was getting into the future. So I do love the progress there. Yeah.
That feels like a perfect book title, by the way. Getting into the future. I love it.
Right though? So,
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question, I call it the official question, but really it's the simplest, is if people want to connect with you, learn more about the work you're doing, hear more of your stuff, find out all the stuff you're involved in, where would you send them? Is there a hub or a directory?
So you can look me up at Lachi Music. That's LACHIMUSIC.com. That's where you can get our all of my upcoming music. We just released a song called The Bag with the Amuse label. It's out right now, and we're going to be releasing more music, a song called That Kind of Black in about 2 weeks. And then we're also going to be going on tour, a tri-continental tour to Europe, Asia, and Africa. So get all of those dates. Those are going to be coming in April. We are also writing a book as well. So stay tuned for the book that's going to be coming out later this year as well. If for whatever reason you were really touched by my conversation about recording artists and music professionals with disabilities, and you yourself have a disability or a neurodivergence, or you know someone who does, who works in the industry, you guys can come to Ramped, RAMPD.org, and check out all of the really amazing stuff we're doing with the Recording Academy, with Live Nation, with Netflix, et cetera, and be a part of the movement. But yeah, just join us over at Instagram at Lachi, Lachi. You can find us on TikTok, I guess, if it's still around, on Twitter, X. I mean, man, social media really needs help right now. And you can find us on Spotify and everywhere you get your music.
Amazing. Lachi, this has been an absolute pleasure. With your permission, I'll call it a to be continued.
Awesome. Would love to be back. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. There it is. Lachi, like Versace. Hope again you enjoyed the latest episode of The Enlightened Passenger. Hope you join us next time. In the interim, don't forget to get your copy of the book, The Enlightened Passenger, at thisisthebook.com.